Looking good. Okay, we're gonna go one more. Now, Cheryl, don't be looking at Crazy Dee. You gotta look at me. Good deal. Thank you. So we got that taken care of. Wow.
Sorry.
So Cheryl, tell them what the show is about today before we
Good
get started.
morning. Welcome to Like It Is Radio. I'm doing a spin-off show called Ladies First. Do you have me queued up for Ladies First, the music?
You want me to play Like It Is and
It
then come
starts
into
Like It Is and then Ladies First.
Okay.
And then we do the 18 minute
18 seconds.
18 the 18 second
Okay.
anyways, sorry about that. I'm Cheryl Langford. I'm hosting
Sorry about that.
Ladies First this morning. It's a spin-off show of Like It Is Radio. Thank you, Franklin, for the wonderful opportunity. What we're going to talk about today is marijuana and the youth. Marijuana was legalized exactly a little bit over a year ago, July 1st, 2017. So we're going to talk to the youth about just about how they're feeling about it, if there are any concerns about it, because now that it's legalized, are they more open to maybe trying it? So that's basically it. I just think that it's important to speak to the youth and just find out what they're feeling.
How much time we
about it.
got, B?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, one question for
Minute
you.
and a half.
Okay, minute and a half. Thank you, B.
Mm-hmm.
Is it weed, marijuana, or is cannabis legal?
Well, that's a very good question, and we have a lady named Aisha here that can define those terms, because it's marijuana cannabis, it's cannabis weed. I don't want to answer that. I'm going to leave that to our guests to answer that question.
Oh, okay. All right, we're gonna leave that there. This is B. Timms, the
Yes.
engineer. Okay, now you can
Nothing
figure
about
it out.
this show.
You bet.
Okay, we have a quick question before the show starts. Is weed, marijuana, cannabis? Is cannabis, marijuana, and weed, or is that just which
answer
one
is-
got which one got legalized?
The answer is yes. I just try not to use the word marijuana because it has derogatory notions. It was used negatively in regards to Latin descendants.
Wait. We need this information for the show.
Yeah, we
That's
go.
why
This is
that's
pre. This is why it's
live.
behind the
I
scenes.
know, but some stuff we need to leave for the show.
Uh-oh.
Teaser.
Let me-
Do a teaser. Between those and
Right?
A teaser. All right, so have everyone tune in.
Those speakers come
Repost
on?
this. Yes, they did. They repost this because this is an important show today, and like it is with the spinoff show. All right.
KCEP 88.1 FM Las Vegas. Owned and operated by the Economic Opportunity Board of Clark County. Broadcasting in HD1. We are Power 88, the People Station.
Y'all nervous? No? If you like talking, just talk.
Can nobody see this program or not?
The camera can. Okay, look. If you got a cough, sneeze, do away from the mic. It smells like you spit. If you do that, you don't want that, because I don't feel like coming here tomorrow and smelling it. So, yeah, if you got a cough, sneeze, be cool, comfortable. Know what you're talking about. Don't BS if it's gonna sound bad, so you want and all that stuff like that.
And you are on film,
You on film, you on air.
so this is the disclaimer now.
I wasn't
You
done
get it
talking.
right. Okay, I'm sorry, but the show getting ready to start. So this is the disclaimer. You're on film, you're on live stream, and you are given permission to do so. And when Cheryl's ready, you can finish.
Your volume is over here.
We don't have headsets.
If you need your volume, it's the button on the side.
You guys want headphones or you guys are good?
He said
You're the host, right?
He said they don't need the headset.
Yes.
You're the host.
So I don't even need the
Yeah, as long as you can hear what he's saying.
You gonna take calls?
Yes.
Okay, you need the headset.
No, we got. Don't worry about the headset.
Don't worry.
We already squared it away. We're gonna let him cue in and then hit. We're
Have fun.
going to see when I say you take the call.
Y'all black.
That's what
You sound like you have something now.
to hear what the question would be. Oh, this is for her. Oh yeah, but then everybody else will hear it. think he likes to be schooled.
It was just up there. Sometimes that shows. Sometimes that shows.
This show is like, this is just the intro.
You going through the whole song?
You're supposed to play the 18 seconds music.
Why you trying to go?
Not supposed to be the whole song.
These high school boys and girls are having a hop at the local soda fountain. Innocently they dance. Innocent of a new and deadly menace lurking behind closed doors. Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
Good morning, Las Vegas. Welcome to Like It Is Radio. I know you were expecting to hear Franklin's voice this morning, but you're getting me, Cheryl Langford, for this segment of Ladies First. For all of you who don't know, I am the softer side of Franklin Burley. That's right. I am that softer side of Franklin Burley. Everybody says that. Now we all know Franklin can bring on the testosterone. And we all can agree to disagree, even though there might be some furniture moving. I'm just saying Ladies First is softer. It's different dialogue and some different topics. Franklin isn't in studio today. He's out and about in the community. One thing about Franklin, he goes above and beyond to keep us, the family, in the know. And I have to say, he keeps us well connected about all things that can and all things that will affect us and our community. Whether it's socially, politically, globally, even financially, whatever it is, he keeps us well connected. And he also does his due diligence by providing us with valuable information. He provides us with perspective, forward thinking, and knowledge. And I often refer to him as the father of knowledge. He says he isn't. But how many of us received, embraced, and shared what we've learned from him? Like I said, the father of knowledge. So with that being said, thank you, Franklin, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to do another segment of Ladies First. On Ladies First, we talk about those issues that affect us, women. However, men, make sure you listen in too, because if it affects us, guess what? It definitely affects you too. And I assure you, you are going to get a lot of valuable information. On Ladies First, we've discussed everything from women's health and mental health issues, to finances, to relationships, which is always a hot topic because there are so many components to having relationships, especially when exes and children are involved, and that's a lot of times. We have even had discussions on raising our children. And that's what we're going to discuss today, because when recreational use of marijuana became legal in Nevada on July 1st, 2017, just over a year ago, I take it that millions of dollars that has been made off marijuana and the money that was supposed to support the Clark County School District from the marijuana just haven't quite made it to the funding of our schools yet. It's obvious because they have cut millions of dollars from the CCSD budget for the 2018-2019 school year. So let's not educate the youth, let's just get them high. Is that what we're doing? Helping us to discuss the dialogue on marijuana and the youth, we have in studio today several individuals who will help us understand what marijuana is and how it is going to affect our future, which is our children. I would like to first introduce Aisha Goins, who is an author, an advocate, a columnist, and cannabis blogger for Blackabis. She is also a consultant for businesses on how to navigate the cannabis industry through her company, Green Bridge Consulting Group. Welcome, Aisha, to Ladies First.
Thank you very much for having me.
We just heard the introductory from the 1936 film Reefer Madness. That was 82 years ago. What he's speaking of was 82 years ago. And it wasn't concerned about the adults in marijuana. It was targeted towards its use amongst the youth in marijuana. A discussion that we're having here today in 2018. Is that stigma about marijuana still relevant today, Aisha? Is it still relevant today, that stigma?
The stigma itself isn't. However, the use, how it's affecting the children, I can foresee that being an issue. We can see the lack of understanding that there need to be education on how this was going to affect our youth, affect our teens, in their lifestyle and their everyday activities. I think it was negligent in that part. However, the stigma of reefer madness, and I want to be clear about that, the stigma of reefer madness was released specifically to control cannabis in the world and in the nation of USA specifically. So that stigma is not right. However, as we are evolving in this industry, it's becoming more important to us and more relevant. Yes, we're having a scenario where we didn't take into consideration how this would affect our youth.
And how is it affecting our youth?
So I know I have a 14-year-old son. He'll be 15 in September. There's not enough education. One of the things that I've had to do personally is be mindful of the conversations that I'm having with my child and then my nieces and my nephews. And I try to make it important to explain that we're still in a dosing mindset and not necessarily like we're just getting high. And verbiage, words matter. My mentor always taught me that words matter. And if we're having conversations where we're talking about cannabis as it relates to recreation, then yes, we're doing our children an unjust. But if we're having a conversation as it relates to treatment and dosing, then we're changing the conversation and we're delivering new words to our youth as it pertains to marijuana. And then you're explaining to them that, yes, this might be a space that you may need it. Let's get to a space where your brain is developed or use a non-psychoactive portion, and we're using it for dosing as a treatment and not to just be getting high.
So do you think that with the number of teens that are possibly using it, and like you said, you do have some concerns about it, do you think they're going to have to start some type of programs to help teens?
So I know that those things are already in the works. I know the Department of Taxation is already putting together some programs that will roll out educational information for schools and just kind of like center stuff. They'll be doing bringing people in to do some conversations. However, as it goes nationwide, as it becomes legal nationwide, I think that we need to focus more on how this needs to be explained in the school district. So for example, where there is a sex education, I think there needs to be more of a drug education, a cannabis education along that same lines. I think that would be the resolve to where we're headed.
Okay. Is there a difference between weed, marijuana, and cannabis? Is there a difference? All right, Crazy Dee, that's for you.
So as an advocate, I have my own pet peeves, right? Marijuana has a bit of a racist undertone to it because it was the word that derived from when they were talking about cannabis as it pertains to our brown. So I don't like to use the word marijuana. I try to keep that out of my conversation. I do, however, will use the word weed often when I'm talking to my peers, just mostly because I know that that's a word that we identify with. And so if I'm not having a conversation like this, then I will communicate about and use the word weed just because that's a dialogue that they're comfortable with. However, cannabis is the more appropriate and scientific term because it derives from the word, what it is, the cannabis plant, which has cannabinoids. So that's why we use the word cannabis. Not getting all technical, but that's the reason why. And so I choose to use the word cannabis, and I would love for everybody to also adopt that word into their vocabulary. Let's start getting in the habit of not use the word marijuana, but move towards the more technical term.
Okay. And the dispensaries. I've heard so many different things that the dispensaries. Well, let me ask you this: what is synthetic cannabis? Or is there synthetic cannabis?
So synthetic cannabis, you won't find synthetic cannabis in the dispensary. That is the exact reason why cannabis had to be regulated for it to be sold in dispensaries. So synthetic is, I'm laughing because it just, I just do not understand why Big Pharma will want to take something that they know works and then synthesize it. It just makes absolutely no sense, but that's what it is. It's a man-made ideal of what cannabis can and does do in a person's body.
Now, can that be more dangerous than what?
Oh,
what
absolutely.
Natural cannabis.
Anything synthetic or man-made is typically later not really great for us, right? So imagine that with drugs. Mm-hmm. So we have an opiate abuse problem, right? They're having so many issues with synthetic drugs and how it reacts and responds to people's bodies because it's synthetic. Why are we taking something that we know grows from the ground? And I don't say that as if to say, oh, it's great because it grows from the ground. I'm saying that we're moving into a holistic lifestyle as it is because synthetic is messing up our bodies, giving us cancer, giving us lupus, giving, all of these diseases. Because lupus is something that all of a sudden we woke up and people have lupus, right? So we're moving into the more synthetic things we introduce into our bodies, the worse our bodies are. So I feel the same way about cannabis. But I don't want to. I answered the question right, so I don't want to keep dialoguing. So
no. So, what are some of the side effects of cannabis? With I don't know if there are different side effects for adults versus the youth. What are some of the side effects?
So scientists says that young people should not be partaking in cannabis under the age of 16 because their brains are still developing. Okay? So just in general, we shouldn't be introducing any drugs that have a mental effect on our youth before the age of 16. To me, that means any drug, right? So I didn't introduce my son to, my son has slight autism, and they wanted to put him on drugs. And so I didn't introduce my son to the Ritalin and those kind of things because it was a brain changing drug, right? So I opted to give my son CBD, which is cannabidiol, which is a non-psychoactive form of cannabis, and I was able to get results from that. So I think that if we are introducing anything that's going to change their brain waves, we shouldn't be doing that until their brains are fully developed. And that's just in general. So of course cannabis would fall under that lines. I try not to say cannabis in general because then people go, oh, cannabis is bad. However, so is Ritalin, so is all of the other mind-altering drugs that we're introducing to our children. So I think that we could get more results if we use more authentic and wholesome and holistic results to our children, like maybe taking them outside to play, teaching them, because you can always teach new habits, right? So teaching them new habits on how to control their mindsets and things like that, taking them off of sugar. There's things that we can do. Well, that goes for cannabis as well. We shouldn't be introducing cannabis to our youth if their brains aren't developed because it's going to be mind-altering and they're not going to grow into that effect, into their fullness.
Okay. And what part of cannabis is the part that gets you high?
So it's tetrahydrocannabinol, which is actually THC. So that portion of the cannabis plant will absolutely have mind-altering effects. However, it is administered in so many different ways to so many different people that it's difficult to say at what point a person would have a psychoactive effect to it. So it can be altered where you may not have psychoactive. You may just get your body may be affected from it. However, the way that people are just getting into dispensaries, if you're just purchasing over the counter, I can guarantee you're having some psychoactive effects too.
And I'll ask you this last question, and we'll allow the other guests to join in. If your cannabis is laced, do you know that it is? Can you really tell? Does it taste different? Does it smell different? What?
So in the state of Nevada, and kudos, I always do this, kudos to the Department of Taxation, Department of Behavioral Health, also to the city and the jurisdictions for being very specific about making sure that the things that you purchase in our dispensary has been tested thoroughly. So nothing that you purchase in the dispensaries here in Las Vegas, Nevada, or in the Nevada governing body should be laced because It won't hit the floor if it's not tested. And the dispensaries take their licenses and their privilege to have that license very serious. They won't buckle on having anything in their dispensary that hasn't been tested. So if you're purchasing something that's in our dispensaries, it won't be laced. However, there is still a black market. And that black market, I don't foresee that black market going away anytime soon. And some people would like to call it the venture of cannabis small business. I call it what it is, and it's a black market. And because you can't regulate black market on anything, right? You get Louis Vuitton purses bootleg, they're bootleg, that's still black market. So in the same aspect of cannabis, you don't know what you're getting. You know, they tell you that it's, let's say some strain, because strain names are so many different things, and you might be smoking dirt, right? You may think that you're getting an edible and it's just